Hello, I'm Nat Weeks, and I'm here in San Diego, actually in El Cajon, and it's been a wonderful day. And I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about how taxes can make such a huge difference in your life. Um, Death and taxes, I understand, will be with us forever, and we might as well learn the best way of dealing with them. When my wife convinced me that these Manitech products really were exceptional, and I came to believe that indeed that was the case, I couldn't just stop doing what I was doing as a Christian school teacher and start building the business because we had no savings. We depended on our cash flow. We were living right on the edge. I was trying to raise a family on $19,000 a year. And that was a real challenge. People asked if we believed in miracles. Well, we were depending on them. And so she carried on. She shared with her friends, and they got great results. And they shared with their friends, and they got great results. And word spread. And she was going here and there and qualifying for different incentives and bringing me home a T-shirt from Hawaii or sending me a postcard. And somebody had to keep an eye on the kids, Joby and Caleb, and I had to keep working, of course, until she could set me free. So anyhow, about 2 years later, I came home from work. We lived in a little small house, about 1,000 square feet. I knew she was home because the car was in our little driveway. And I walked in and dropped my book bag and all the papers I had to grade and correct and prepare for class the next day. And I noticed on our little table was the credit card statement. I think it was Visa or MasterCard. And our deal was, ever since we got married, no credit card debt. We would pay everything off every month. That was the agreement. And it had worked well so far. We only had, I guess, at that time, 2 credit cards. She needed one for all our Manitech activities, and I could only afford gasoline once in a while to get to school or wherever I was going. And so she had the bulk of the expenses. She handled the credit card stuff. But being a responsible husband, I figured it was my obligation, my duty to kind of keep an eye on things. And so I glanced at the credit card statement for that previous month. And if I recall, it was for her about, I think it was like $14,000. And I couldn't believe it. I was thinking, this has to be like cumulative frequent flyer mileage. But then I noticed there was a dollar sign in front of that 14,000, and my name was at the top of the statement. And when I tell the story, I feel the hair on the back of my neck still, rise up. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't fathom what was happening. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I picked up the credit card statement, and I was waving it over my head, and I started hollering, silence, are you nuts? Are you insane? What is going on? And she heard the commotion and opened the bedroom door, wherever she was, and stuck her head out, took in the situation, grinned, and said, I got it covered, honey. And then closed the door. Well, it wasn't too much later that we got our 1099 from Manitech, and she had made $53,000 that year on her Schedule C and hadn't mentioned a thing about it to me at all. And I was very proud of her. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, and then it hit me. I said, honey bun, did you do any withholding? What's that? I said, well, sweetheart, did you do any quarterly payments, like to the IRS? And she said, no. I said, oh, did you save any money? And she said, no. And I said, oh, we're dead. On $53,000, what would we owe? I mean, I had all that withholding taken out of my little Christian school teacher salary, but we'd owe like $13,000, I suppose. And I didn't have it, and she didn't have it, and I thought, oh my gosh. And I called up my brother, who's a medical doctor in Seattle, who'd introduced us to Manitech. And I said, Brad, you've always made more money than we have. What in the world do you do about taxes? I'm in big trouble. And so he put me in touch with the Tax Reduction Institute outside of Bethesda, Maryland, Sandy Botkin's group, and others. And I began learning about taxes, which I'd be glad to share with you, what I've learned. And so anyhow, I contacted them, and it was before email, And so we went back and forth on the phone and writing, and I sent them, what they wanted, and they said, do you have this? And I'd send them that. And we took the extension, then we took the second extension, and I kept my fingers crossed and prayed a lot, I suppose. And then on October, it was due on October 15th. And October 10th, I think, the doorbell rang. I remember it just like yesterday. And I went and opened the door, and Federal Express was driving down the street, and they left a big packet leaning against my door. And I knew it was my tax return. And I thought, if these guys are really good, if they're really good, maybe I'll only owe, like $6,000. I had no idea where I was going to get $6,000, but, I didn't know what to think. So we didn't open it till after dinner because I wanted to enjoy my last supper, and then I opened it, and this is the tax return. This was in 1997, and you can see that there's a there's a $53,323 that she had made that year in Manatech. And I scanned to the bottom of the page, and we had a loss. Can you see that? A loss of $190. I did a jig around the kitchen. I was praising the Lord. I was hooting and hollering. I was saying, this is good. This is a miracle. I got to figure this out. This is important to know. And so the next year, I did my own. Well, let's see. The next year, 1998, she had made $79,000. She'd gone from $53,000 to $79,000, and at the end of that year, we had a loss of $10,272. And I thought, this is getting better all the time. I've got to really figure out how this works. And so I'd be glad to share with you how this can happen, because it can really make a huge difference. And because when you're a sole proprietor, you have a Schedule C to handle your business profits and losses and your expenses, and then whatever those are, they transfer onto your personal tax return, because you'd be a sole proprietor. And so as we go along, it's, I'll share what I learned, but it's going to be very important for you, of course, to check all this stuff out with your tax expert, your tax attorney, or your tax representative, or whoever. But at least the goal of this series of videos is to at least give you the questions to ask, let you know the questions to ask. That's half the challenge.